Today's video is bittersweet because I'm about to show you my dream truck, which might also be selling today. Hence why I'm here at 7:30 in the morning creating this video. Normally I like recording in the afternoons, but this afternoon my Excursion might sell. Whether it does or doesn't, I wanted to make this video before it's too late because this is a project that's took me over a year to complete, and just as of a couple days ago, it's done. And so there's no better time than now to show off the Excursion. And without further ado, let me show you what's took me over a year to get done and what's been a dream project of mine. It's time to get up close and personal with this Excursion. Really, it's in wonderful condition, especially considering it's got 192,000 miles and really looks like it's got not even half of those miles. The paint's in wonderful shape. The rest of the interior is in really good shape overall. You know, some fading on, of course, the leather. It's pretty normal, especially for a vehicle of this age and miles, but it is the limited trim, so it's got, of course, embroidered seats. It's got everything that you could option in an Excursion, including the rear AC and rear entertainment. That was one of the things I noticed when I saw it listed online. Despite not having the engine, despite some of its issues, it really didn't have anything cosmetically that had to be done. I think I spent the least amount of time having to tackle that stuff. It was primarily mechanical. That's really where everything lied because, of course, no engine meant a lot of work that was ahead of me. And the story goes, the guy had this listed, had been in his family also for pretty much the entire life of the Excursion. It showed a couple owners on the Carfax, but according to the story and what I found out, this was actually owned in the same family the entire time. Son had it and lost interest when the engine had whatever issue it had. And of course, was sitting at a shop no longer being used. So that's why I picked this thing up. It was listed on Facebook for months and I ended up picking it up myself. But the new engine is in the Excursion now. As you can see, I mean, it's nothing super spectacular. It's a 7.3 diesel, as to be expected. I haven't washed it. I really do get weird about washing old diesels or just older engines in general. I don't want to risk what I could potentially have happen, and that's old parts being sprayed by water. Usually old electronics don't really do well in that environment. But of course, you can't really see the transmission unless I go under there and really point it out, but it's a reman transmission. It's not just a used transmission, it's a rebuilt with a warranty transmission. I suspect what probably happened was this guy right here. That tuner, which had been in the vehicle before I had done the engine and the transmission, is probably what happened to the original engine, if I am correct. Really, the tuner's nothing that crazy. There's 4 modes to it, but probably the highest setting, number 4, is what caused the issues to begin with. Especially since I had to replace the transmission in it, I suspect the whole system really was a problem. But nevertheless, I baby all of my tuned diesels that I've had. I only drive them in maybe 1 mode up from stock. When we did replace the engine and transmission, we did not have to replace the ECU or anything like that. Just some programming, of course, involved, but nothing too crazy. The tune still exists on here. I drive it in setting 2, always just 1 step up. In fact, I don't really know if it's a step up because mode 1 seems like a tow mode, not really a normal driving mode, if you get what I mean. But here's one look at the complete interior. It does have some nice things that the previous owner added, such as those gauges. The rest of the interior is in great shape, clearly well loved. And in fact, the back seats don't really look used at all. I've got my camera laying across it, but overall in really fantastic shape. Could use another wipe down. I did just get it cleaned, but not detailed. No cracking on the door panels. The rear entertainment system fully works, and the back seats hardly ever look satin. Also cool is the cargo area is in pretty good shape. A little more wear back here, just some typical staining probably from groceries or whatnot, but that's to be expected. I think every single Excursion I've had has had some sort of wear on the back area. Really, that was a brief rundown of the entire Excursion. I don't want to bore you with just walking around it. We could talk about it for hours. It's an Excursion. It looks really cool. Of course, has 3 rows of seating. This thing is an absolute beast. It's huge. You know, I'm almost 6 foot tall. I say that I'm like 5'11" really, but it's towering over me as some other SUVs do, but really this thing is huge. I don't really know how else to tell you. And the good thing is the 7.3 is more than powerful enough to handle this weight, because the 7.3 specifically are extremely heavy vehicles. I have driven 5.4 liter versions of this and it just doesn't keep up like the 7.3s do. No shade to that motor, but you know, it's just not big enough for an Excursion. Also do have the V10, which again, I'm making a video on here shortly. That is more than powerful enough too. 2 of my favorite motors for it are the V10 and the 7.3 due to their reliability and power. The 6.0s are good too, but they tend to have some more problems. So without further ado, let's get this thing cranked up and let's get driving. I really love how these older diesels sound. They're really cool because they are loud, really add to the experience of what you're driving. Newer diesels are cool as well, but there is something different about these old 7.3s or the old 5.9s that just have something special about it. You know, the sound, the feel, the power, it's just so much different than a new diesel. Let's go on a fun, potentially last drive of the 7.3. Behind the wheel of the Ford Excursion. Let's have a little fun. Holy shit. Wow. This is a super slow diesel, but it's stupid fun. But that's what makes it so fun driving one of these things. It's way slower than any sports car. It's a lot slower than modern trucks. But the fun factor is still level 10 because, well, you have so much that's in your control, not in the control of a computer. But while I'm driving this, I might as well tell you some of the things and some of the processes as to what happened from start to finish. You know, it's really crazy seeing a project come to fruition, you know, from a non-runner to a totally complete project. I mean, you wouldn't know that this wasn't running at one point. But again, that's what makes this so special to me. This Excursion was something that I put together. I was more of a project coordinator. How about that? But really the project went like this. You know, I saw this thing listed on Facebook. It was on Facebook for about 3 months before I ended up purchasing it. There was probably a lot of reasons as to why. Of course, no engine is kind of like sketchy maybe to some people. Buying a project with no engine, I feel like it's a lot harder to go from no motor to a motor in the vehicle rather than to take out an old motor and put a new one in. And reasoning being, my mechanic and I were having this discussion, you have all the old parts when you're using a old motor and you're just swapping it out. Sure, you have to take out the old motor, but at least you have everything there. You can pinpoint really where the problem area was too on the old motor. Because part of the problem during this project was having to source some of the parts. While not all too hard, it just takes time. Shipping the parts here, making sure they're the right ones, it just takes a lot of time. Because things like what I'm about to tell you happened. We put in this motor, we got it ready to go, I started driving this thing. And of course, when you start driving it, you haven't really tested out all the other parts that could potentially fail as well that were already in the vehicle. And so, like on my second drive of this thing, I had gone 100 miles around the Dallas North Tollway here locally and just started making round trips to get this thing going. Well, the next day I had started the vehicle, it's totally fine. I drive it 10 miles up the road and then the alternator fails and everything electronically is not working. That's just some of the stuff that happens when you do these projects. And then after the alternator was fixed, I drove this again, another 100 miles, and then the transmission went out. See, that's the sort of gamble you take using old parts or used parts that you buy off of eBay or wherever else you go pull from. It's also part of the reason why I went with a reman transmission for this thing rather than just a used one. I could have probably saved $1,000, but I'd rather it be right, especially if I was gonna sell this, which is clearly the plan, but I just wanted to make sure I'm more safe than sorry. I just love that sound of these diesels. It's just so pure. You just don't have any of that added emissions crap, so it's just so much different than a new diesel. I've had some newer diesels, I've had 6.0s, there are a lot of differences between even the 7.3 to the 6.0. Both good and bad. But due to my job working in the dealership space, I've had a lot of experience driving the 6.7 diesels and 6.6 Duramax. I owned one of those, driven a lot of newer diesels and mid-year diesels, call it stuff from like 2010. I owned a 2010 6.4 liter, just none of it drives the same. This thing is such a joy to drive. It will bring a tear to my eye to see it go, but the reasons I am selling it is a lot due to I just need to have more money back in my pocket. Projects take a lot of money to tackle, as most people know, and this one definitely took a lot. Because you're talking spending money on engine, transmission, all kinds of parts that were needed because they were missing, new drive shafts, just so much money that goes into these projects. It can really eat you up. It'll eat up your savings. It'll eat up your checking account. And a lot of times that's why projects never end up being completed, including a few of mine. As you'll probably know, and this is probably one of the few times I'll mention it, I used to have a Bentley Arnage, and I had a project that I was doing on that Bentley. I bought it not knowing it would be a project, but I did know that there would be some level of stuff I would have to do to it. Now that one specifically, it was a Bentley. There were a lot more parts involved and parts cost involved that I really didn't know about, so I never ended up really finishing it. But that's what happens with a lot of these projects and why this one is so satisfying to see through. I'm driving this project. This project is complete. And that's from a lot of other failures of mine. 240SXs, 190E that I had. I really wanted to do a wonderful project with that one, but at the time I didn't have the right money, and this was finally a time where I actually had some of the funds to get this done. But just barely, because, well, I can survive if I kept it, but just financially the smart decision is to sadly sell it. And I know I would hate myself for selling it, and I know I would hate myself for not selling it, so, a little bit of a dilemma. But nevertheless, really the responsible thing to do is, well, what I said. Well, that was the drive, and it's time to take our, basically, one last look at it besides my final concluding thoughts, which will be on a tripod. But it's cool. It's cool. Really the best Excursion that I've had besides my V10, and call it out of all of my Super Duties as well. I've had quite a few. This has been one of my favorites, tied for the top spot. And while my V10 isn't technically completed, I'm going to go ahead and give this that #1 spot of just my most favorite project, my most favorite truck or SUV, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely #1 in my heart for right now. It's everything I truly could have ever dreamed of, and it would make a good dadmobile because I will have kids soon. But that's for my other V10 Excursion, which is sitting over there and will be probably the topic of my, well, next video. So without further ado, let's go back to the tripod. Seriously, this project has been a year-long process. It's been one that's been in the making since I saw it on Facebook over a year ago. I own a 6.0, a 7.3, and a 6.8 V10. which they'll all get their own videos, trust me. But the longest project out of the 3 of them has been this one, because this one required so much work, where the others, it was a little bit easier to get them on the road again. But seriously, in the beginning I was saying how this video is a semi-bittersweet video, and that's because there was so much passion poured into this project. And there's probably quite a few of you that are watching that understand that feeling of when a project's complete, how nice it feels. Whether you do the mechanic work yourself or not, whether you fund it yourself or not, or maybe you're the mechanic on a project for somebody else, just that feeling to see that it's all done, that it's really come to fruition, I gotta say, it's a wonderful feeling. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. This is my first video that I've posted in a long time back, but I plan to get back into it a lot more. I have a lot of good support, a lot of good people that have been encouraging me to do this. So I wanted to get back to it, and I'm really appreciative of those people, especially my sister, who's done a lot on Instagram and YouTube, really blown up, and she's just been encouraging me to get back in front of a camera. Especially since, you know, I haven't recorded several of the other vehicles and projects that I've done, and she doesn't seem to understand why I don't. Especially since it's fun to share that stuff on the internet. I just hate editing, but nevertheless, you'll see a few more videos from me at the very least. Subscribe, stay tuned. Who knows what is next, because I do have another Excursion project that is about to finish. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.